Welcome everybody to Cup with Gup on this beautiful Thursday, October 21st, and what could be the last Cup with Gup with Ryan as we are working to get our new podcast name, artwork, and intro going. We'll save that for next week. Hopefully we get everything done. We can announce that. Thanks for all the suggestions to the people that did that. So hopefully we have that on that platform next week. Still be on this feed and this Gup's Corner Network on podcasts and all that, so you don't have to worry about that. Just kind of imaging it to separate it from my solo pod of Cup with Gup. With me, as always, on Thursday to break down the main slate, Mr. Stevens. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good. This week's a little different than last week. My wife's going away again this weekend, but Max is staying home with me, so be some father-son bonding time over the next few days. It'd be pretty fun. How are you doing?
Nice. A lot of sports going on. This is a big Braves-Dodgers game tonight. Should be good. The Braves got one back after blowing the lead night before. So you get I think they're up 3-1. Got a chance to close out the Dodgers. I don't think many saw that coming. We have 4 college football games. We have what I just finished my Showstoppers article, and a interesting game to say the least, with the banged up teams that are the Broncos and Browns later on tonight. This will be dropping around halftime, so you'll already be watching it. A lot of good game strategy there. So hopefully you checked out the podcast earlier today with me, or if you're a premium member, you read the article. I like these slates that we'll see tonight, that we don't have, just a chalk Derrick Henry, a chalk Lamar Jackson, or Pat Mahomes, whatever. It's like you really have to put the puzzle pieces together on this thing and take some assumptions and wait on injuries type of deal. Some of that's going to be said to this 10-game slate we got coming up this Sunday with some massive spreads. I talked about it Monday. I don't think I've seen not only a slate, but just a betting card with so many big favorites all in the same week. We have 3 double-digit, flirting with 4 double-digit favorites, and that's with, 6 teams on bye? Is that right this week? 6 on bye?
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 teams on bye. We still got the Thursday, Monday, and Sunday night, so we have a 10-game slate. Before we do all that, you can use the code CUP, get 15% off. Any package includes a 7-day risk-free trial. These next 7 days will be awesome to try it out. We got, PGA covered. NASCAR's coming down to the final 2 or 3 weeks. UFC, college football. Like I said, MLB. We get in the GC Warrior Room and talk it up there. It's a one-game showdown, so only so many ways you can go about it. NBA's kicked off Tuesday night with Dan. I saw a lot of green screens last night as I was scrolling through the Slack. College football Friday night, college football Saturday, and then 10-game NFL on Sunday. Monday night and Sunday night games will be covered by me as well with the Showstopper. So tons going on now. It's free to try it out. If you don't like it, cancel. Be sure to rate and review us on iTunes. I use that when we do our big giveaways for majors and big football slates, stuff like that. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Head over there right now if you're not watching this live or watching it on video. Hit the like button, subscribe. It goes a long way. Tell me your favorite quarterback on the slate this week. Price doesn't matter, just any of them. Several good options on there. Use the code GUP with Underdog. Get a free $10 when you deposit $10. All kinds of NBA, NHL, NFL, college football, daily stuff going on. Go ahead and get familiar with the site and the app because we'll be covering best balls next year when that rolls around. It's the best ball app, no pun intended, out there. The link is in the description for that as well. We are kicking it off with the Chiefs at the Titans, a 56-7 point total. My team ownership that I brought my first run that I put out a little while ago for the members, this is one of the highest I've seen in forever. Chiefs 84.1%, not the game, just the Chiefs ownership projected 84.1. It is the highest game at 116.1. Next, you get the Rams 74, then the Eagles 65, and Baltimore 63. Very one-sided projection games this week. It'll be interesting to see how everybody obviously shuffles out through that. I guess the good thing is there's not just one spot that you can hammer because that makes it a little bit harder to get unique. Several different spots to get into. kick us off with the Chiefs Titans. What do you? I mean, obviously it'll be the number one game of the week as far as points scored, projected, and probably actual. Titans look good on Monday. Had them +6 at home. Defense looked a little more. I mean, fired up, in tune. I'm not going to go out there and say they're the 85 Bears or anything, but they at least played sound football to me enough. They kept them in the game. They still give up points, no doubt. Chiefs defense we know is horrible. Not really looking much better. Where are you at on this game?
I like this game. I mean, obviously, but the reason, some people might stay away just thinking like, oh, Chiefs football team last week, that was like the smash spot of the week or whatever, and the football team failed pretty hard in it. But when you do look at that, and that was probably an oversight by me on the last pod, was the football team does struggle to keep their drives alive, and that's exactly what happened that game. So even against a bad defense, their bad offense is the one that won out there. The Titans are actually top 10 in offensive drive success. So I mean, that's all based on Derrick Henry. He just is running over everyone right now, and they sustain drives, they score touchdowns, and that's what you're looking for to kind of keep the Chiefs going, keep them fast-paced, keep them wanting to score. So it's hard to see a scenario where this game fails, especially if you're going to get – I think Julio is a little banged up, but if Tannehill has all his weapons and Mahomes does too, if Tyreek Hill plays and everything, I mean, it's just hard to see a scenario where this doesn't shoot out and at least get to like a 50-point total.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's the obvious. It's hard to see it. I was going to check. This is the time of the year. Yeah, it looks beautiful. Sunday, time of the year that I probably before we go live on this pod, I will also make sure I check some of the weather stuff, because you can get, like tonight, I talked about it. Obviously, again, you're probably listening to this while the game's going on, so you guys are probably like, shut up. But you would think kickers and stuff like that look good tonight, but then you go looking and it looks like it could be 30, 40 mile an hour wind. So we do want to keep an eye on that. But this game, it looks beautiful in Nashville, Tennessee. So no issues there. I agree with all that. So if you're doing MMEs, large field, we talked about this last week a little bit, and you do have clear cut spots to get into this game. There's not like a Heineke, right, that you're trying to take a risk on. Like, all these guys will probably be owned. Do you try to just avoid this because you have a few other spots, or do you try to have the rest of your lineup builds, your one-offs, be unique?
I think the one-offs be unique and maybe hit some other games that people aren't hitting. Even to have like pluck two people from a game that's low owned that you think can go off, just to be a little different. I mean, Tannehill is capable of scoring 30 DraftKings points too. So I'd like to see Julio out there too, so he has his full arsenal. But he hasn't really done it yet this year, and then people just got burnt, including myself, playing Heineke last week. So maybe that's a place that people shy away from. And if you're just checking the Tannehill box scores, he hasn't hit, a big 30-point week yet. So maybe that's a little way to be different too. I think his ownership will be down even in this game atmosphere with, Derrick Henry soaking up all the ownership on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and I think it's a great bounce back. That's the only note I had is this ain't Heineke is what I put. Like, let's not. I got him at $6,400. I got him sub 4% right now. He's my number 6 ranked overall quarterback on the slate. For those reasons. And I talked about this on Monday Night Football, my showstoppers. Like, I went with him a lot in some builds because I think people forget that, like, he can show up. Now, at the end of the day, you still needed Henry in there. He had a monster, 3-touchdown game, but he's not afraid to score a rushing touchdown either, which gives him a little bit of that upside. Yeah, so I definitely could start with Tannehill, which I got Mahomes as a number 1 projected ownership at 7 times the ownership as Tannehill. And you're saying, this isn't Redskins where they're going to struggle, and especially if they have Julio and A.J. Brown both pretty much healthy. And Henry's doing his thing, so he takes so much. And this isn't a good defense. Like, Kansas City's not going to get that much better all of a sudden in 1 week, that they're going to be able to run the ball. It could set up big play actions. And then, like I just said, he can run the ball in there. He has that capability because all eyes are on Henry at the goal line type stuff, and he just pulls it out and boots out there. And a lot of times his are very easy quarterback run-ins because everybody's going to try to stop Henry, deservingly so. Do you like Daryl Williams this week a lot? Do you think he'll be? What do you think about him? Second week getting tied. I mean, he's my number 3 overall ranked running back on the week right now at $5,800. He's going to be top 3 or 4 owned total running backs. Do you pass on it? Maybe that gets a little bit different because there's other decent running backs on the slate.
Yeah, maybe for tournaments. I think he's playable in anything though. Like there's going to be some chalky running backs in like the 6K range, kind of like last week there was some very obvious spots. So I think he actually might be like a lower owned pivot off some of those guys. And he had 24 touches in this game. I mean, he was just the man from the first snap. He plays all three downs, passing downs, goal line work. I mean, that's what it was last week. He didn't even have a lot of yards, but when they're down near the goal line, they have no problem just letting him pound touchdowns in. So, I mean, he's got a lot of equity in this offense that scores a ton of points. So for 5,800, it's, I like it.
Yeah, it's definitely a smash spot game. Probably the last thing, before we move on is if you get into this environment, you just got to make sure you have some. There's plenty of nice plays this week that are sub 6%, sub 7% as your one-off builds in this game. Because if you just load up on chalk, or we get some late value open up that everybody's going to, unless it's just an absolute, like a few weeks ago with Madison against the Lions, and something like that, yes. But outside of that, you really got to be unique, or you're just going to be battling against so many lineups. I do think starting with Tannehill makes you unique, so then you can just kind of build differently from there. Next one it's a high scoring game, but it's one-sided. We got the Rams 33, Lions 17, 50-point team total. Obviously, most of that is coming from LA. Where are you looking here to go first? Obviously Rams should smash. Stafford's looking good. Henderson only gets a $600 bump, and I used him in virtually everything last week. I'll go right back there against Detroit. Where are you liking?
Yeah, I think you lock in at this point. Any running back versus Detroit is just a smash play, which we knew anyways. But like you said, for only 6,600, it really doesn't make sense with a team total of 33 or wherever they're at right now. They're going to score, 4 or 5 touchdowns here. Henderson's going to be involved. So for 6,600, he catches some passes too. I mean, that's a great price against just a terrible defense. And then on the other side of the ball, really and obviously Stafford and his weapons would be kind of a pivot off that if you wanted. But just like we saw last week in the full onslaught, they get our number 3 offensive onslaught ranking here. Like Stafford 8, Henderson 8, Kupp 8, Woods scored a touchdown. You can play them all. They can all succeed. It's a little riskier like that. Like Woods really didn't hit, only scoring like 12 DraftKings points. But if you just play the quarterback, the running back, and one of those receivers, and you get the receiver that goes off, Woods and Kupp both have, 30-point games this year, so it can happen. And then the other side, Quentin Cephas is out for the year. So St. Brown's getting a little more work. I would prefer Daryl Williams if he's back. He almost played last week, I guess, but did not get activated. But if he gets activated this week, he's only 3,800, and I think he's their true number 1 receiver. And that's a cheap price in a game where they're going to have to throw all game to catch up.
Yeah, I do think I don't see many scenarios where Detroit's not throwing a lot in the second half. I played a little bit of St. Brown in, I do the $9 slant. So that's the one I have at MME in on Sundays. Had some of them there. I'm still not afraid to play Swift. I know, the banking on it this week is you have to trust that they're going to use them in the passing game because it's still going to be hard to run on this LA front. And not even if it's not too hard to run, they're not going to be running very much coming in the second half if everything plays as we think it does. So I'm not as high on Swift this week, especially if he's – the 6,000 price tag is attractive. But like you just mentioned, Daryl Williams up there, for $200 cheaper, you could go there. And I kind of agree with you on the St. Brown and Stafford, and then keep an eye out on who's active and who else is active. This guy's just failed everybody so much. Do you like Hawkinson at all at 5,100, or do we just we're done with him?
Yeah, I don't know. I can see it if they throw like they did, when they got down to the Niners earlier in the year, they just kept feeding them, and it was all garbage time. So if they truly are going to get blown out like that, maybe he hits. I think there's better spots to look at on this slate. He's only like 5,000 or 5,100, I think, when I look, but I would just rather go somewhere else.
Washington football team versus the Packers, another double-digit spread, 29 or close to double-digit, 29.25, 19.75 for the Packers. Washington football team is not very good in many areas. They're on the road against Packers. That's another knock. Devontae Adams was a letdown for the price last week. He only drops 100 to 8,900, but now you have others. Like, it's not Devontae and a big drop. You got Hill at 86, Cooper Kupp at 84. interested in anything here tournament wise, Ricky Sills is still cheap. He was very involved last week. Most likely they're going to be throwing. Aaron Jones kind of keeps my eye, but it looks like they're trying to get AJ in there. I don't know if that's a deal to keep. They keep saying it's to keep Jones healthy for the whole season and have him for the playoffs, which I don't doubt, but it does carve into Jones' production. But we do know he's capable of having a boom game at any time. Talk to me on this game.
Yeah, I think like initially, and I put this out early, so I got to look at news and stuff like that. But I like Seals Jones, 3,700, still involved in the offense quite a bit in a game where they're going to be behind. I like it. And then Adams, he didn't have the game last week, but this is the type game where I'd like to look at him here, where their totals approaching 30. He's got all that usage in the red zone and end zone with this team. This is one of those games where Rodgers could find him for 2 touchdowns, and I think for his price went down $100 because he didn't have the big game last week. So I still love Adams here, and then I almost included AJ Dillon, like you said, just because he's getting more involved, and if they're going to be ahead, he's only 4,600. I could see him scoring here. That's obviously only like an MME tournament type play because he is the backup, but he's going to get some burn here, and they could really put a whooping on the football team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to pull it up right now. Where do you have Green Bay in your matchup advantage onslaught? Are they up there? I'm trying to get it pulled up.
They're 8 for run and 8 for pass, which gives them like a 7 overall when I break it down that way. So okay. They're up there like just they can score on Washington's really what it comes down to. And then Washington doesn't really have a good advantage coming back at them, a little better in the pass. So that's why I don't mind Seals Jones as coming back to it. It's hard for me to go back to McLaurin after they just sucked last week like that. But maybe that'll have him lower owned too. So if you are going to come with a run back, maybe just go right back to him. But I don't know. The passes that Heineke threw last week, I mean, they were real bad. So it's hard to look on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I know McLaurin missed practice yesterday, I think, but that's probably more. He's kind of been banged up. I don't think it's anything that is worrisome. But I mean, I think I have Adams as a second bet to match up on the entire week, defensive wise behind Cup. But I would still rather. There's not many time like Rodgers likes to take care of his guys, and he knows Adams didn't have a very productive week, and they're going to be another spot where they can smash again. I lean to go back there because he did kind of burn a lot of people last week. So I certainly like that tournament wise. This isn't a game I want to get too involved with because I could see it being an ugly, sloppy. We're up by 20 in the second half and just kind of melting the clock. Now you hope that 20 is involving, Devontae Adams, and then, Washington keeps throwing the ball and Seals Jones at least gets his, but 3,700 is not that big of a risk. Adams, if they get up big and he's not involved in it, we have a problem because he's $8,900 and that's the only worrisome there. But I kind of agree with you in general. Next, we get the Eagles at the Raiders. Eagles are underdogs by 3 points. Raiders had a good win at Denver last week coming off the John Gruden, fiasco. I like Jalen, in general, just because he's on one of my fantasy teams. I only have 2 now, but it looks like he plays horribly, and then he winds up with like 28 fantasy points out of it. I mean, it just continues to happen. It's nothing fancy. $6,900 there on the road though a little bit, but I do like the Eagles in the betting aspect. I think this could be a letdown game. I think they'll be physical and outplay the Raiders in the trenches. I don't like much about the Raiders at all because I think they're going to struggle to run the ball. And trying to figure out how this offense is going to be moving forward is kind of off my radar for now. I may have some naked Hurts or play some Hurts in there. I like Devontae Smith because he gets a lot of targets, but not a game I want to get too involved with. What about you?
No, I listed one guy. I mean, I actually do think the Raiders run game has been bad. There's no getting around it. But the Eagles run defense has also been bad. So, that'll be a matchup I want to see. The intriguing part is Jacobs is so cheap. He's 6,200. So, if they're going to score a few TDs, I mean, I would think he'd be involved. And the Drake thing, he scored twice last week, but that's on 6 touches. I mean, that ain't going to happen again. So I think Jacobs would be the only place I'd look, not for cash, not for anything like that in this game. And like you said, I own Hurts too on my main fantasy team. And he, like, every week I'm just like, oh, shit, here we go again. and then he runs 2 TDs in at the end and he's fine, scores 25 fantasy points. So it's like, it's just tough to trust that. I mean, I feel bad for his receivers sometimes. The play calling really sucks, and he's, Sanders isn't even used on that team, which is just blows my mind when you see him play. He's so good, and they don't use him. So I can't go on that side of the ball. Josh Jacobs is it for me here, and then, I'll move on.
Yeah, and it's a good point. Like, the Eagles have a great run or a great defensive line, but you watch their games and basically all they're doing is trying to protect against getting beat deep, which Vegas, the Raiders like to do, throw it deep at times. And that's why they're so horrible against the run D on DVOA is they play the shell coverage. They keep everything in front of them. They'll give up the run. And that also shortens the game, which they like. They don't want to have to be in a shootout with their offense they have now. So it's a good point on Jacobs. I can move. He's number 6 in my ranking, so I like him. He wasn't on my radar as a potential play, but I could see that as well. I think you could get his. And I don't hate Drake. We'll see. I'm still in a wait and see mode. Like you said, there was a little bit of a luck box last week, but as we thought, he'd get out of the doghouse. I'm interested to see, does that continue to grow, or are we going to get 6 to 8 touches again next week or this week, but no touchdowns, and it's a big bust. So I'm interested to see how that works out. Falcons at Dolphins, 22.5. I'm high on the Falcons in general. I've bet them times. They should have won. Most of the times I bet them, they give it away, just like last year, give it away late. I still think they can move the ball. I'm not very high on the Dolphins at all, especially on the defensive side. I kind of have this mark as a sneaky game environment where we could see some points out of both sides, but particularly I do like, Tua looked all right. Like their loss last week wasn't because of him. I mean, he looked fine throwing the ball. Ridley should be back and healthy. Cordell Patterson's a guy that people keep thinking, oh, it's just, make believe, or it's, no one likes him. I'm like, well, he's doing what, he's continually doing it. Like, if you do it over and over, I'm going to believe in it. And they're both cheap, Tua and Matt Ryan. So you can really kind of target 3 pieces in this game, maybe 4, and then go pick off some of this Chiefs and Rams and stuff, because you get such a good game script at cheap. What sticks out to you first here?
I totally agree with everything. I mean, this is like one of my favorite games on the slate. So, they're both bottom 4 in defensive, drive success rate. So they just let teams just come down the field and score. While the Dolphins offense isn't that great, they're priced accordingly. So, and the Falcons defense, like we just said, is terrible. So it's like Tua's 5,500, Waddle's 5,600, Gesicki's 4,700. That doesn't make any sense to me. They're just too cheap. They get all this stuff, and they didn't even play like a Sunday night or Monday night game. Like, they just aren't priced correctly, in my opinion. And then Matt Ryan, 5,700, and Ridley, to me, is one of the worst prices I've seen all year at 6,600. I think he should be $1,000 more, and it's not even close. Especially if you get Xavier Howard and Byron out, they might play. But even then, Ridley is too good. To me, he's matchup proof, and he's 6,600. I don't get it.
Yeah, he's my biggest preseason bet last year for over 1,000 yards. That cleared easily. He's my number 4 ranked, only behind the big 3, Tyreek, Cooper Kupp, and Adams, and then it's Ridley. Absolutely love him. Couldn't agree more. You didn't mention tight end. I just lost it. Pitts.
Pitts.
Yeah. Any interest there? Or you think he's going to be chalky or what? That was the only thing that I had noted was no Pitts ?
I think he got the big price jump because he had the big game.
Yep.
So they did, he had the big game. They priced him up, and that was without Ridley. So yep. Ridley's back. I think his targets were, definitely that was because Ridley was out. So Ridley's back now. He's the man in that offense, and for only $700 more, I mean, that's where I want to go. Pitts could do it, that's fine. But I just think with Ridley and Patterson there, both healthy, it's hard to get a lot of targets for Pitts. Patterson's been freaking awesome. So I have him as a tournament play as well here. Obviously he just sees too much volume to ignore. But Ridley, again, is only $300 more than Patterson. I can't get over that Ridley price. I want to play him in cash, and it's hard not to play him in tournaments.
Yeah. And I will, the only interest for me for Pitts is because he's most likely, with the price jump and everything else, he's going to be cheap or low owned because this is a big tight end week. You got Kelsey, you got Waller, you got Andrews. Goddard's going to be up there. Ricky Seals-Jones is so cheap. He'll be high owned. So you get all those pieces that Pitts is going to kind of fall in that where that people are going to say that. They're going to say, well, if I'm going to spend $6,000, $5,900, I might as well go up to Andrews or Waller or even go all in. Very, very likely you could have a double tight end week and be successful this week for sure. But like you're talking about, whether you like Tua or Ryan, pick one of them and then go Ridley, Wadley, and Gesicki. Then you go up to that Kansas City game and you can take Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, and Kelsey without even touching one of those quarterbacks because you're going to take a cheap quarterback here and still be viable, or get off one of these cheap pieces. If you think AJ Brown's going to have, there's options in that game you can get to with doing a little game stack here, and I really like that this week a lot. It's one of my highest games I like that I don't think will be. What do I got it on? Let me see where I got it on ownership. Falcons. Yeah, it's the 8th ranked total game ownership out of 10. So
yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, there's some pieces here to be had. Bears Buccaneers 30-17. Bucks projected. Fields is doing his thing. He's getting better week by week. Nothing that attracts me. I'm still a Mooney guy. I think as Fields gets more comfortable, I think next year Mooney could have a big year. He'll be a guy we'll be talking about in the offseason. I like Fournette. He just continues. I think he's. I talked about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think he's going to continue to be more and more and more the whole guy. They have talked about wanting to keep guys like him. Arians was on actually with Colin Cowherd yesterday. Great interview, about 40 minutes long, and he talks about that. Hey, we got guys that we. He goes, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they got all these gadgets on them, and we're monitoring them for injury. We want these guys healthy come December and January, but he's still going to get his. No difference in Brady and all these guys. So I do like Fournette. I love pretty much anything with the Buccaneers. The Bears D is not good on many facets. I don't see a lot of people getting down here. Tampa Bay will be owned, but nothing like we've seen. I got them like probably 6th or 7th highest owned on the slate. Talk to me things other than some great cash plays here, but tournament wise, do you like some stuff?
Yeah, I think Fournette's still, fully in play. He's got the same expected, PPR points of people like Elliott, Kamara, Cook, Jones. Like those are big names, and he's up there doing what they're doing now. So, in a game where they're home favorite, this could be another game where he sees 20-plus touches, gets a carry at the goal line or something. He punches that in, and you're on your way. And he's catching passes too. So even with Bernard back, he's getting 4 or 5 catches a game. And then the only thing I like, so the Bears are a run funnel defense. Like they try to stop the pass and they'll let you run the ball. So I like that about Fournette as well. And the Bucs the exact opposite. They'll stop the run, let you pass on them. So yeah, Mooney was the other guy I said, I don't even mind playing Mooney in cash. If they're getting blown out and Fields is going to throw it all game, or just beat and Fields is going to throw it. Mooney's a guy who can beat any of them deep. You just need to connect on one really for 4,600 and he pays off. So, that's a spot I like. And then for tournaments, I guess you could look at the pass game. It's just hard to know where Brady's going to go. He can really spread it around. But if you do you land on the guy that he connects with for 2 TDs, then yeah, Brady can always go for 300 plus and 3 or 4 TDs in any game. He's just unreal right now.
Yeah, and he's determined. He's there's talk about there. He's wanting to, set the passing record and all that kind of stuff. So by no means is he going to lay up, if they're up big, he's always in play. He brings the price. 7,700's up there. I think he'll be a little lower owned with some of the, smash spots with Mahomes. Lamar is still going to be, he's unreal right now. Stafford's going to be higher owned in my opinion. Kyler will be right there with him. And then I still think Jalen will pull in one of the top 3 or 4 ownership because he just continues to get there with his legs and he's cheaper than these other guys. So, Brady be in play. I agree with you. I don't want to say you could play a naked Brady. That gets a little hard. But man, and if you get time or you guys listen out there and you want to go listen to that with Bruce Arians, they know that, and the wide receivers are fine with it. As long as they're winning, they really don't care. He said Mike Evans it was either Evans or Godwin. I think he said Evans is the most unselfish NFL player he's ever been around in the 40 years he's been coaching. So these guys are okay with, hey, it's not my week, whatever, as long as we keep winning. It makes it a little, I don't say scary, but picking the right one, it's kind of like Bobby talks about in college football when Ohio State or somebody's on the slate. It's like, it's a roulette. You got to hope you hit the right one. I'd rather get my action with Fournette. Brady and maybe you just go one. I think is Gronk still out for sure?
I don't know for sure. I did list OJ Howard though because he got more involved and he's only 3,400, so he's definitely interesting.
Yep.
They are one team too, where you can just go Brady and Fournette. Like it's not that far fetched that Fournette catches a touchdown pass, but even if he doesn't, just look through the games. There's plenty of instances where Brady and Fournette both eat in the same game.
Yeah.
So it's especially here, I got them as like the fourth highest onslaught advantage, with the number one rushing advantage and like 4 or 5 in the pass advantage. So like they can do it all. And 303 TDs from Brady if he's coming in at lower ownership, and then Fournette getting a TD or two. That's entirely possible.
I 100% agree with all that. Cardinals hosting the Texans 32-14.5. Pretty similar to last week for Texans for me. I mean, this is a smash spot. For the Cardinals. Not much on the Texans I want to play. Cooks continues to get his look, so he's viable for sure, just based on the targets. Kyler can be played naked here. He's another one. The way this offense is looking this year, it can be spread out. One can go off. I still like Hopkins. They still have, to me, a clear elite wide receiver in Hopkins, whereas Tampa Bay has 2, maybe even 3, that are all on that level. I think Hopkins is still a little bit better than the others, but he does spread it out. So I'm perfectly, but I do kind of like Chase Edmonds this week. I think he could be a good pivot off some of the chalk in that area, but I don't know if I get any Texans at all, but I like, stacking up some Cardinals. I think they'll be at home. I think they keep rolling.
Yeah. It's like same thing with me with the Texans is Brandon Cooks, and that's it. And he's still only 6,000. So that's nice to see. Yeah. And then for the Cardinals, I mean, one of these running backs, if not both, are going to have a big game. And that's assuming Kyler doesn't steal all the TDs down there. He hasn't really been doing that with the addition of Connor. So I don't know. I kind of really like Connor. Connor's got 79 carries this year, and Edmonds has 79, total touches. So while like normally you'd like the floor of Edmonds catching passes and stuff, this to me is a type game where you don't want to bank on TDs, but I think Connor's a pretty safe bet here to score a touchdown in this game. And if he gets another one, that's when he's off and running at 5,600.
Yeah, I have both of them inside my top 12 right now in running backs. I think they can both double-digit points, fairly low ownership. I think Connor will be lower than Edmonds. I think they're exact same price. Yeah, exact same 5,600. Yeah, I go either way there. And like you said, I mean, this could be a game where right, Kyler can steal that from them, but this could be a game where they're up 21 points in the second half and just running the ball and rotating those guys out. They could both go off. That's not unusual. We do that a lot in college football, especially when we think there's a big blowout. If it's a good running back field, play both of them because the starters are going to eat. If they're up, if the game script works out like we think, they're going to be up big, and they're both going to be getting ball, towards the end. So I definitely, and I think that's a unique way to get in at that game if you want to. You're not going to have to worry about too much ownership. It is actually the lowest owned game on the slate for me now. Arizona's still top 6, while Houston obviously is the worst projected own of the entire slate. So you can pick and choose in here however you want. Ravens 26.5, Bengals 19.5. Ravens on a roll since the Detroit Lions scare. Lamar's looking great in all facets. This is a big game for Cincy. I mean, if they want to show they're real, they can be the division leaders if they win. At Baltimore is a tough call for them. I played the Bengals last week, had some Burrow and some mix and match there. I don't know how high I'm on. Their defense is really getting healthy and looking better. And I think if you look at full year stats, you're going to think they're not as great, but the healthier they get on D, they are pretty decent. They're not a world beater, but any Bengals love for you or just Ravens or move on? I love Bateman. I'm all about him. I picked him up in leagues where I could. I'm going to play him for sure.
Yeah, Bateman's getting close to like cash consideration this week. There's not a lot of clear value. So for him being only 3,400, getting 6 targets in his first game back, and then now his second week into, I think he's going to play more. Division game, they're at home, favorites. Like there's a lot going in his direction here where, I think that I'm going to add him to the cash part for 3,400. Just kind of opens up a lot more things, and I don't think he can blank or anything. And really I'm only considering two quarterbacks in cash as of right now for this week, and Lamar's one of them. So if I go that route, I don't mind playing Bateman with Lamar there. But overall, Bengals, I haven't written anyone down yet. Like I'm kind of just waiting it out, looking at it. These teams do play at slow paces, the 24th and 32nd fastest neutral pace. But I do think like something about both teams being good and fighting for the division win now. Like I didn't think we'd be saying that about the Bengals when the year started, but I think that might you might see a little quicker pace in this game and a little more urgency from both teams to kind of score and prove a point. But as of right now, I'm only on the Ravens side of the ball, and that could change as the week goes on. Chase, I guess, is always in play, but I do like Lamar, and I like all his weapons, and Bateman to be the only one I consider in cash with him.
Yeah, tournament-wise, I definitely wouldn't mind running back. You got Higgins and Boyd both under 5K. Those are good running back options. It's a little bit of a roulette. Chase is looking to take over, but I still like Higgins. I think he's going to have a big game at some point. He'll probably be higher owned than Boyd, but $4,900. If you go Lamar, pick one between Andrews and Brown, and then go Bateman, so you get 3 men out of the Ravens or running back with Higgins. I don't mind that at all. Not too fired up about mixing or anything. Could go Chase for sure. He'll be popular. 6,200 though. He's starting to get some price bumps, so people may back off because I want to say TD reliant, but it's like just like I said earlier, when it continues to happen over and over, you have to start thinking like this is he can do it. And if he does wind up with 8 to 10 catches, and he hadn't even hit that mark yet, he could have a monster game. So some cheap pieces here. I like Higgins. Is probably the only one I throw in tournament wise over Boyd. And
I agree with that. I'd be off mixing here. I mean, he's the same price as he was last week or close to it. And like traveling to Detroit is much different. Back-to-back road games. Now you travel to Baltimore. I'm not on that. So I'd be with you. Just if I'm going to go here, I'm going to the receivers.
Yeah, for sure. Panthers at Giants. Panthers struggling after the great start. 22.75. Giants 20.25. Giants banged up. I don't think Barkley's playing. I think Jones is back. Shepard obviously returned last week. Slayton was a last second. He didn't go. I expect him to come back. And then Tony left the game after he started. I had so much Tony last week, it just killed me. But I think he had 3 catches, 36 yards on the first freaking drive, and then he goes out of the game. I don't think he's. I don't even think. I think he may be out already. I don't know if he's questionable or not, but. This is going to be a sneaky game that, they're not great defenses, but the offenses haven't looked tremendous either. I think Jones can get there because he can do it multiple ways, especially with a Barkley out. I kind of agree with you, Art. I mean, as long as McCaffrey's out, now he's on IR, so we know he's out. We don't have to wait. I'm still going to play Chuba. I don't mind paying up for DJ Moore, who's going to be probably lower owned at one of those top tier wide receivers this week. And like you said, Shepard's been doing it all year when healthy. Carolina can be thrown on. I don't mind him either. Anything different tournament-wise for you?
No, I kind of like plucking those pieces out of the game, like you said. Galladay's still not practicing. And then, I just looked while you were talking. Tony's doubtful. So Shepard, to me, 5,600 is still not enough. So I'd even consider him in cash if that's going to, be one of your receivers that you put in there. I don't mind that. Why wouldn't he see 8 to 10 targets? I think he's going to if they don't have any bodies out there. And then DJ Moore, he still saw the same volume he's seen. I think another 13 targets last week. He dropped a touchdown, I saw. And that whole team, was just dropping passes left and right. It's kind of crazy. But he's not always going to do that, as he's proven time and time again. So for 7,100, I think he's a great low-owned play. So, again, for tournaments, you pluck 2 pieces out of this game, you could do a lot worse.
Yeah, and we're right around that 40-minute mark like we want to be, and there's not a lot to talk about in this last game. Jets at Patriots, 24.75, 17.25 to the Jets. Probably the defense of the Patriots would be on my mind just because of how Belichick does against rookie quarterbacks. He's already played them once. I maybe Ramondre creeps in for me if depending on how that backfield looks, health wise. There's just not. Patriots defense is probably my favorite play out of here just because they're somewhat cheap still, 3,400. I'd probably still drop down $300 to the Cardinals going up against Houston first. But anything for you? I know you didn't have no cash love here, which is obvious.
No, and I don't even think I'd go here in a tournament. I just don't. These defenses are both okay, and the offenses aren't any good. So And then they priced up, Damian Harris, 5,700. I don't know. Like you said, Stevenson can get there at 47. To me, he's kind of like the A.J. Dillon type play, where if they get up big and want to just take it easy on the starting running back a little bit, then he starts getting some love. But again, it's hard to predict that or to play it with any confidence at all. So I think even at the low prices in this game, I'm just not interested in anyone.
I mean, the one I could lean maybe a tournament and it'd be a one-off in a lineup, but there's better options. Would be Jacoby just because he continues to see some targets, $5,300. Not the worst, but I just like other people around that price or even cheaper just as much. So I just this environment could be ugly this week. Maybe the D, just because how Bill handles that with and they're my second ranked D on the week, so that's probably about all I would do.
I think they scored like almost 20 points last time when they played the Jets earlier this year. So yeah, they definitely be in play.
Yes, they did, and I had them that day, and they were a lot more expensive. So I think you're getting a little bit of. I mean, there's you got the Rams are at $5,000 against the Lions. I like the Patriots. It's a similar situation. They're at home, so I like them being a home D. So I'd go Patriots saving 1,600 all day. I don't think it's a week where you have to pay down on D. Like people just go chalk. I get it, but 3,100 and 3,400 cards Pat. That's not horrible with some of the options we have. Any final wrap up thoughts for you tournament wise before we get out of here?
Not really. Just check for the updates on Saturday morning is when the biggest updates come after Friday's practices wrap up, and then I'll also update it on Sunday and be in Slack. So. With all the news, like last week when we head into the weekend, I think 20 running backs are questionable or something weird. So it's just like that now. So you just got to make sure, you can read the article now and see it on the website, but make sure you check back in on Saturday for all the updates, and that could change things quite a bit.
Yeah, I mentioned that for tonight's game. I was like, hey, if you can't be around after the actives are listed, don't play tonight. There's just too many people that change the slate, and not only. For me, I know you dive into it as well. I'm not only talking about wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks. Like tonight's game, for example, who's active on the O-line and D-line and stuff for me matters a bunch in this game, especially for Cleveland. And so all that matters on where I may go on certain games, and that matters in this as well this weekend. Monkey Knife Fight, I've been on fire. I think I've hit 80% in the last 3 weeks. I will have my plays out on the coin flip later this afternoon, or actually for you guys, it's already out, so go check it out. I got my plays there. I posted my PGA ones yesterday. I will have my college football plays as well. 100% match up to $100 when you use the code GUPS, GUPS. They have USC, college football, NASCAR, NFL, PGA, NBA, MLB, anything, LOL even if you do the League of Legends stuff. So everything you want to bet on there. I release college football, NFL, and PGA picks. Like I said, been printing money. You should be up probably 6-8x your money if you've been playing them over the last few weeks. Come join that, and I'll release those earlier on CoinFlip. Like I said, I will be live Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern. I think I will verify that because I got it with the whole Japan golf deal. I got to see how that correlates with when that's finishing up sometime Sunday morning. But I'll be live at some point that morning. I just want to make sure all that's situated. College football, the Read Option podcast comes out tomorrow morning with Bobby Berger. And like I said, Coin Flip and today's Cup with Gup earlier are already posted if you want to go check them out. Hope you guys have a blessed week. It's a big weekend, a lot of action going on. Hope you guys enjoy this. Had a ton of great feedback. Hopefully we can debut the name and artwork next week. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.